Es un acuerdo.
Fran, tell us about that match. How did you manage to turn that around?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I bet I look more red in this lighting than ever, don't I? Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's difficult when you play someone that's much more experienced in these scenarios than I am. It's my first main draw here, and she's played semis here, so she knows what she's doing on the courts. And, you know, although her form maybe isn't at her best at the moment, I feel like that first set, you know, she really didn't miss a forehand. She played excellent tennis, and of course, you know, I wasn't on my best, but we're talking about two players that maybe aren't on their best form, generally speaking, so it is difficult to find that when I'm, again, experiencing my first main draw here. I think, you know, I'm not one to toot my own trumpet, but I do say that I am, you know, a mentality monster in many ways, and I think in these moments, I either find that or, you know, you're done and dusted against these players, you got no chance to get back in, so I just tried to make it very uncomfortable for her, and every point mattered.
Fran, there was a lovely moment where you celebrated with your mum and dad. Can you just give us an insight into the sacrifices they've made for you and the time you spent away from them? Because it looked like a real family team moment that you celebrated.
Yeah, you know, normally I'm one to say you shouldn't cry until the tournament's over. But I think, you know, everything I've been through this year, it's really been challenging. I think really tough for my parents, you know, like throughout the kind of whole concussion process and all of that. They've been on the other side of the world. So obviously, I can't speak much about it, but it was in the US, so it's tough for them in different time zones, calling from hospitals and not understanding bloody American medical insurance shite. So, it was a real challenge, and I think they've suffered with me, you know, even from a distance. And of course, you know, you can look at the bigger picture, but truly the emotion for me isn't about the bigger picture. It's much more about how tough this year's been. So yeah, I lost a bad match in Rabat this week as well. So to find a way back today in the same week, you know, that's not an easy ask. And yeah, I'm just glad that I dug deep.
And first of all, just you had quite a long hug with Beatriz at the net, and I'm wondering what was maybe being said in that embrace and whether there was a particular relationship between you two. And I also just want to ask you about having lost 6 first-round Grand Slams before to get over the line. Were you conscious of that at all, that you've been here before and there was a grit to not let it slip again?
Has it been 6, has it?
I think that's 6. Yeah, it's 7.
Yeah, I retired in Australia. We don't count that one.
Okay.
It was a bad injury.
5. Then.
5. Let's stay to 5.
Clearly wasn't on your mind.
No. No, I mean, first the question around Bia. Bia's probably one of my biggest fans. So she's one of the players that texts me when I do well, and there's no secret. I spent a lot of time in South America, and she's actually coached now by someone who I will refer to as kind of like my uncle. He was with me at my second Wimbledon, and throughout that 24 grass season, and I speak to him every week. So yeah, there's a good relationship there with Bia, but especially with her, you know, her box in that sense. She's a great example for everyone on tour. You know, huge fighter. She's gives everything she can on the match court. She's completely and utterly the definition of being a professional tennis player. So there's a lot of, I guess, mutual respect. And yeah, like a sort of big sister figure for me on the tour. When it comes to the rest of it, was it on my mind? I think what was more on my mind wasn't necessarily the past, and you know, there's a lot of context to previous losses in first round, as I said, the injury, and then, you know, if you count 2021 Australia all the way back, it was my first ever a long time ago. I think for me it was more about doing it here on the clay. You know, it is my surface, and I've had a tough clay season, which is, you know, difficult for me to swallow because of all the above that we don't need to go back and talk about. So I think just to try and at least compensate a little bit means a lot from that side of things, yeah.
Fran, congrats. I know it's only the first round, but obviously seeing your emotions on the court, I just wondered, how does this win rank for you in terms of looking back over the last few years? Is it one of kind of your top moments on court?
Yeah, it will be a top moment on court, but there's absolutely no reason why I'll be living in the shadows in my next match at all, right? Like, I know I'm dangerous on this surface. I know I've not been in my best form, but it gives you belief. I think, of course, if we go back to the fact that I was told I couldn't play tennis, you know, when you're winning matches in the main draws of slams and beating someone that was 10 in the world, that's, you know, it kind of nips it in the bud a bit. So, of course, it's a monumental moment, but don't get me wrong, like, I'll be going after the next match.
Forgive me if this sounds a bit of a Billy Elliot question, but from 2-1 down in the final set, you played 5 games where you barely made a mistake. What's it like? What does it feel like in your mind and your body to be able to play tennis like that at that moment?
You know, I think I've often found the seesaw of how my brain works difficult to understand. I know that I have a high IQ on and off the court, and so sometimes it's difficult for me to understand that. And in those moments, it's either make or break, whether I use it to my advantage, or sometimes I can see everything that I need to improve, and, you know, that can be overwhelming. Sort of diagrams in my head, seeing how it's all going wrong, or the pathway to making it right. So I think today, thankfully, I chose the right pathway. But you know, of course, there's moments where it's difficult to choose the right ball to hit, to accept the mistakes you're making that are the right ones as well. But yeah, I didn't realise I barely missed a shot, to be honest. I think I was just taking it very much point by point and irrespective of the score.
Fran, it was a pretty long match. It was really hot out there. I just wondered, how pleased are you with the physical side and how well you held up?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, you know, it's again no secret that previously I've struggled with 3 sets, but to be honest, last year and coming into this year as well, started the year winning 2 back-to-back 3 sets against, you know, top 10 player, whatever she was ranked at that time, and then so I think I'm gaining more confidence as 3 sets are happening. But yeah, of course, with the heat, like, it's tough on us both, right? I could see how red-faced she was. I didn't even want to look at myself in the mirror if she was that red. So yeah, of course, huge challenge, and I know a lot of the players will be finding it tough today. But it's part of tennis. You've got to find a way to deal with the conditions. So it is what it is.
Well done, Fran. You mentioned how tough you are mentally. Just wondered where you thought that came from. Is that something you've always had? Has that strengthened kind of the more adversity you've faced? Yeah,
of course. I mean, it's as simple as it looks, really. You go through a lot, you deal with a lot, you know how to tolerate a lot. So it's really as black and white as that. I'd like to give you a better answer, but it is really that black and white.
Fran, you're quite a positive person, but when years ago
Am I?
Well, you're in terms of when you're told years ago you're never going to play tennis, doctors are telling you you're never going to make it, and you become a tennis player and you now win a slam match. Is there a part of you that thinks, I wouldn't mind having a word with them, or hope they were watching? Is there a part of you in that? I know you're probably looking forward, but
no,
is there a part of you that's thinking that, perhaps?
Speaks for itself, honestly. Speaks for itself. I hope I can do this more often to keep getting the message across more. Because I know that whilst the tour respects me a lot and do a lot for me, I think that I'd like to reach more angles of the world. So I'll keep giving it my everything to keep pushing the story ahead. But yeah, I guess I refer to it as a story, but ultimately it's a reality.